Before we enter the city of Tenochtitlan, we must understand the world the Mexica believed they inhabited. To them, the landscape itself was alive with sacred energy. Teotl, the ever-moving, ever-changing sacred force, flowed through the mountains, the waters of Lake Texcoco, the sky above, and the earth beneath their feet, turning Tenochtitlan, a living map of the universe. The city was not simply built on an island. Instead, the Mexica built Tenochtitlan in the center of Lake Texcoco, using dirt and rubble to form their home above the water. Its symmetry, its causeways, and its great temples were visual teachings in themselves. The story of the Mexica begins long before the first stones of Tenochtitlan were laid. Their identity was shaped through movement, a long migration across sacred landscapes. The Mapa de Quatinchan, a history painted in footprints and mountains, shows this journey not as simple travel, but as a sacred transformation. Through beliefs, the Mexica were born when their ancestors exited the place of 7 caves, Chicamostoc, and performed the new fire ceremony. Each landmark, each hill, spring, and cave carried divine memory. By following the god signs, the Mexica proved their legitimacy. Place and identity became inseparable. When they finally reached the Valley of Mexico and received the omen of the eagle on the cactus, they understood it not as chance, but as the fulfillment of a divine path. The sign of the eagle on the cactus was offered by the gods as their location of refuge. Once they found it, they knew they were supposed to begin forming their sacred city. Their city would stand where the gods had led them, at the center of cosmic responsibility and the center of the universe. Within the city, beneath the steps of the Templo Mayor, the calendar stone, a visual account of time and cosmic fragility. Its central face, whether the earth monster Tlaltecutli or the god of movement Tonatiuh, stares out with an open mouth, demanding the nourishment that keeps the world alive. Surrounding the face are the 4 previous eras, each destroyed in its own way. The first era in the upper right box represents the time when giants roamed the earth. This was an imperfect era and ended when a jaguar devoured the giants. Moving counterclockwise, the second era was destroyed by hurricanes that turned people into monkeys. The third era was destroyed when the skies rained fire and turned people into birds. The fourth era turned people into fish when floods filled the grounds of the earth. In the current fifth era, the world is destined to end by an earthquake. In this world, the sun is represented by the heart, the water of the earth is represented by blood, and flesh of humans becomes the maize that feeds humanity. The calendar stone was located at the direct center of the universe and stood as a moral lesson. The universe survives only if humans fulfill their obligations and sustain loyalty to the gods through human sacrifices. The idea of Aztec human sacrifice is often taken out of context by those unfamiliar with the civilization's worldview, which was deeply rooted in a cosmology where violence, warfare, and ritual death played essential spiritual roles. The Aztecs believed they were at the center of the universe and that the continuation of their world depended on nourishing the gods through human sacrifice. Contrary to modern assumptions, many of those chosen for sacrifice, social outsiders but cultural insiders such as slaves or people born under certain day signs, were not merely victims. Some even volunteered, receiving honor, respect, and privileged treatment for an entire year before their ritual death. Warfare, too, was shaped by this belief system. Battles were typically fought between individuals of similar status, and captives understood that their fate rested in the will of the gods. Ritual preparation often included pulque and other intoxicants meant to ease fear and ensure a smooth ceremony. Although human sacrifice is popularly portrayed as constant and excessive, there is no evidence that the Aztecs practiced it more frequently than other cultures around the world. In fact, the substantial economic cost of sacrifice likely limited how often it occurred. Aztec sacrificial rituals, especially those honoring Xipe Toltec, followed a structured, symbolic sequence meant to sustain the cosmos and uphold warrior values. On the first day, captives had their hair cut and ascended the pyramid while chanting to their neighborhood. Understanding their fate, this chant acted as an honorary song of respect to the people who raised them. At the summit, priests restrained the victim, each holding down a limb, while another used a flint knife to remove the heart, offering it to the sun before the body was thrown down the steps. Elderly wards collected the corpse and delivered it to the captor, who flayed and dismembered it. One thigh was given to Moctezuma, and the rest was used in a solemn family feast, though the captor abstained. Captors then wore the victim's skins, participating in ritual teasing and skirmishes as part of the feast. The Mexica taught their young with images that embodied moral truths. Glyphs, colors, and posture conveyed lessons about character, discipline, and responsibility. A bent posture suggested laziness. Uprightness signaled moral strength. Weighted colors signified life, death, danger, or fertility. Codices recorded tribute, history, and cosmology through these visual signs. Even clothing, hairstyle, and the direction a figure faced communicated a person's role in society. To live correctly, the Mexica had to read the world around them and learn how to align their behavior with it. Everyday labor participated in cosmic renewal. Grinding maize on a stone slab represented the gods' actions of bringing order from disorder. Weaving cloth represented the structuring of the universe, thread by thread. Cooking turned chaos into order, transforming simple ingredients into the sustenance that kept the world alive. In every home, a fire burned at the center, representing the sacred center of the universe. By carrying out their daily work around it, families believed they were helping maintain the balance of the world and the balance of Tenochtitlan itself. The chinampas, floating gardens of Tenochtitlan, were fields built on the water. They mimicked the moment of creation, land rising from water. To the Mexica, the crops grown here fed both the city and the universe. The crops nourished families and markets, but fueled the universe as well. Human labor produced maize, and through ritual offerings, maize returned life to the gods. Blood, offered in ritual, brought the rains. Rains fed the maize, and maize became the flesh of humanity. Agriculture was therefore a circle of exchange, linking the farmer to cosmic forces in every season. Daily life unfolded within the communal neighborhoods that organized families, work, and education. Within these households, men and women played complementary roles that mirrored the dual forces of the cosmos. Men took on exterior responsibilities beyond the home in warfare, craftwork, and public service. Women embodied the earth, fertility, and continuity through interior roles within the household. Both men and women held deep respect for one another and understood the importance of their duties. Children in Tenochtitlan stayed close to their parents until about age 2 or 3, learning early through observation and imitation. Women and the process of childbirth were understood as a battle, often compared to a warrior on a battlefield. A woman who died giving birth was honored as a fallen warrior, her spirit becoming a Siwatateo, a powerful being capable of aiding or haunting the living. From infancy, naming ceremonies placed symbolic tools beside children, shaping the paths they would take in life. Girls received weaving tools and a broom, while boys were given small weapons and shields, marking their futures as clearly as their names. Boys learned discipline from their earliest days. In the Telpak Kali, commoner youths trained through physical hardship, carrying heavy loads, running long distances, gathering firewood, and sleeping on the ground, to build endurance, humility, and loyalty to their community. In the Kalmakak, noble boys learned a different form of discipline. They studied astronomy, history, and the ritual calendar, kept long nights of prayer, and learned to read codices and interpret celestial signs. Both paths formed warriors who understood that bravery was more than fighting. It was a sacred duty. Their role was to capture enemies, and by capturing those enemies, they helped sustain the cosmic order that kept the sun moving and the world alive. The Great Feast, part of the larger cycle of 8 ritual months, known as Way Tequil, the Great Feast of the Lords, expanded the meaning of Aztec sacrificial ceremonies by binding the entire city in a shared ritual of survival, hierarchy, and balance. Held during times of famine, the feast allowed nobles to demonstrate their sacred obligation to sustain the people, while commoners reaffirmed their dependence on ritual order to maintain harmony with the universe. At dawn, canoes carried maize gruel into the poorest districts, where starving crowds gathered with bowls, containers, or even their own clothing to collect the thin drink. Everyone participated, each person drinking from their vessel. Anyone who tried to return for more risked being punished and struck with a green cane. By noon, servants distributed tamales, which symbolized noble generosity rather than nourishment, and tensions often flared. Those who took tamales dishonestly were beaten until bruised, and the unlucky who reached the end of the line empty-handed begged desperately, sometimes being shoved away or struck. This mixture of hope, desperation, gratitude, and violence turned the city into a living landscape of ritual pressure. For 7 nights, the festival continued with flames blazing from 6 long rows of braziers. The city became a spectacle of music, dancing, and elaborate clothing that marked social divisions. Youth leaders wore black net cloaks and shell breastplates. Warriors displayed feather devices shaped like birds, and many men wore elaborate carved lip plugs. Along the edges stood young men who had fasted 20 days, holding fire ladles to light the gathering and serving as moral overseers. Their duty was to ensure no dishonor occurred, especially toward women, with severe punishments, including death, for those who violated women or ritual decorum. Though their role was demanding, these youths were later rewarded with gifts from nobles, signaling the respect. The Codex Mendoza documented the empire's tribute system and the ranks of its warriors through visual symbols. Each conquered town was depicted with its glyph, surrounded by the goods it owed: cotton, cacao, feathers, obsidian, or crafted objects. The goal was not destruction, it was capture. A captive warrior became the most sacred offering humans could give the gods. His heart strengthened the sun, his blood brought the rains, and his flesh became maize, the foundation of life. With each captive taken in battle, a warrior advanced in rank, earning new garments and privileges. Tribute items moved sacred materials from across Mesoamerica to the capital, reinforcing both economic power and cosmic responsibility. But rank alone did not define a warrior. His courage on the battlefield, and the songs he carried into combat, kept the universe alive. Warriors sang flowery death songs that connected battlefield bravery to divine sacrifice. Every battle reenacted the cosmic struggle between Huitzilopochtli and the forces of darkness. In fighting with courage, warriors believed they sustained the universe. At the highest levels of the military stood the eagle and jaguar warriors. Their attire was not symbolic but a transformation. Whenever they put on the costume of the eagle or jaguar, they became the eagle and jaguar warrior themselves. In Mexica thought, art did not represent reality. It revealed the really real, the deeper sacred world beneath appearances. When an eagle warrior donned his feathered suit, he carried the cosmic power of the sun, Huitzilopochtli. A jaguar warrior, wrapped in spotted pelts, embodied the cosmic power of earth and night, Tezcatlipoca. Through featherwork and animal forms, the warriors became embodiments of cosmic beings. Mexica weapons carried both practical and sacred significance. Obsidian blades were sacred because obsidian was not just stone. When polished into mirrors, obsidian became a doorway to the gods, a surface through which priests believed they could see divine forces and interpret omens. Jade carried another kind of cosmic power. Its green color reminded them of new maize growing in the fields, the renewal of life, making it a symbol of fertility and vitality. Feathers linked warriors to the sky and the movements of divine beings. The crafting of each object was a moral act. Shaped with care, it became an offering in itself, created to honor the gods. Beside the temples of Tenochtitlan stood Tlatelolco, the largest market in the Mexica world. Here, tens of thousands of people gathered each day to trade, bargain, and move the goods that kept the city alive. In Nahuatl, these markets were called Tenochtitlan, places where the world of everyday life and the world of sacred materials came together. Across the rows of vendors, everything you could think of could be bought or exchanged. Food, pottery, woven clothing, featherwork, precious metals, medicinal plants, tools, and even services such as barbers and prostitutes. Cacao beans served as currency, but most exchange was rooted in negotiation and trade. Beyond the market itself, long-distance merchants traveled for weeks to bring back obsidian, jade, tropical birds, and other goods from distant lands. Through their work, the wealth of Mesoamerica flowed into the capital, turning Tlatelolco into the economic heart of the empire. Women played essential roles as textile makers and sellers, ensuring that economic and cosmic circulation sustained the empire. As we leave Tenochtitlan, we recognize that its legacy remains alive. Modern Mexico City stands atop the ancient island, but the echoes of the Mexica world persist. In markets, in dance, in maize, and in the sacred rhythms that continue to structure community life. Within the daily routines, their sacred old patterns still echo through trade, culture, and shared labor. For example, in many of the crowded marketplaces, the marketplace of Tlatelolco still echoes through the interactions, negotiation, and the continued social ties. Within the energy of the city, it still reflects the older landscape through the rituals, the water, and the balance of the world and the people. Tenochtitlan was more than a city. It was a vision of the universe, fragile, sacred, and maintained through human responsibility. That worldview, carried through memory and tradition, endures in the people who still walk its ancient ground. Many of the cultures today hold the idea that space and time are held together through collective action. Many people continue to mark seasonal cycles, honor the shared history, and push through the unpredictability of disaster and renewal. The people today maintain the traditions of food and celebration and the closely connected memory to the land, just as the Mexica align themselves with the sacred force through ritual.